Guys, so this is my reflection on a Unit 3. So the first thing I want to talk about is technology. I was just told that the middle school students that I will be teaching next year will have their own personal Chromebooks, and they will be bringing those to class. I'm very excited about that. I haven't done much with technology in my first year teaching, so I definitely want to start incorporating it more. But I definitely have to be careful that I'm using it in a productive way and not just using it to use it. So some of the ideas I have are using it for research projects, such as on a composer or music of different cultures. So getting them to learn how to research Google and get ideas that way. But I would love to explore the different apps that are out there for creating music and improvising music. So if anybody uses an application or an app that they just love and they use it on their Chromebooks or iPads, please let me know, because I'm definitely looking for new applications to use and kind of play with and investigate this summer, so I'm ready for the school year. I agree that promoting and sharing work for students is huge. It makes it meaningful for students. This year I did a project with my second grade students. After we learned about Peter and the Wolf and listened to the story, I decided I wanted my students to write a story and then add music to it, and to have, certain instruments be certain characters. And so they kind of created a soundtrack and a background music for the story. And then at the end, we recorded the stories and we sent them out to parents and other teachers and principals and administrators. And the students were just so excited about sharing it. They were going home telling their parents about the project. Before we were even recording, they were asking if parents could come in and watch, because they wanted parents to see the performance even. So it was just really exciting for them knowing that this was going to be shared, and they definitely worked a lot harder than if I just said, like I did with other projects, so this is a project and it wasn't going to be shared. They loved the idea of the end goal of it being shared out to members of this community and school. So definitely promoting sharing work and performances are so important. Easing into creative projects is also very important. I'm fortunate enough where I was just offered a position where my middle school students will have middle school general music, grades 6 through 8, regardless of if they're in orchestra, band, or choir. So it's mandatory all 3 years. That's going to be challenging because I'm going to have all those different learners. So I'll have students with experience and students with less experience, but I have the luxury of being able to start small with projects and get bigger. So, for example, we talked, what was discussed in the lecture was GarageBand and how we can't just throw students in front of a computer and say, do something. So I could start small and do a simple project where they're only focusing on looping in GarageBand. And then that could be done in 6th grade, and then 8th grade, all the little small things they learned, such as looping and everything else, they can put in a bigger project in 8th grade. So I'm able to start small and then end big, which I'm excited for. I also agree with the adopt before you introduce. I think it is always important to model for students and provide examples. That way there's no confusion of what's expected, and the students can get an idea of what we're looking for, and even, they can take little ideas that were in the other model presentation to kind of start with. So definitely adopt before you introduce. As far as for knowing your population, I always start with a survey asking about the activities that students enjoy outside of school, also what they enjoy doing in school, their favorite subject, what they enjoyed doing in music class last year, their favorite artist or song, and that way I can really get to know what my students enjoy. So whether it's movement, they like listening, they love to write and draw, and I can incorporate it in my lessons. But I really like the question on the example profile asking who they would like to work with in a group. Grouping students can be very tricky, especially at the beginning of the year when you don't really know your students. So definitely putting them with at least one buddy can help with anxiety and it can help the students really focus on the project rather than who they're working with, if they have at least one buddy with them. So that is definitely something I will be adding to my survey. Establishing end goals is also helpful. Right now I'm in curriculum and assessment as well. And this is something we just read about with the backwards design approach. Backwards design has teachers think about the desired learnings first and think about what the learner needs in order to accomplish the learning goals. So it's more goal directed. And after the teacher or whoever is designing it has the goals in mind, then from there they decide what will be acceptable evidence and count as assessments, so we can see what would be evidence of learning, what are we looking for. And then lastly, they decide how they will teach the material, what will be required materials they'll need. Are they going to need a textbook, computers, and go through the procedures. So by thinking of big ideas and designing around them, it makes learning more effective and efficient, and it kind of gets rid of those filler activities because we can think, does this match our learning goal? And if it doesn't, then it doesn't belong in that lesson. And backwards design approach also prevents what was discussed with materials limiting and driving lesson plans in the lecture. Because in backwards design, materials are not chosen until the last stage, which is the planning and the procedure stage. So we, as teachers, can't say, we can't teach our students this because we don't have the materials. We can think of that end goal, and then we're creative, we can find ways to still teach it without the certain materials, at least for that year. And if we want to buy them, then we can always buy them and, promote why we need it. But it definitely shouldn't limit us. And the last thing that I really loved about this lecture was I loved the idea of journaling throughout the project. One of the things I am assessed on as a teacher is, my school uses the Danielson model and rubric, and one of the domains talks about having students indicate that they clearly understand the characteristics of high quality work. So by having students journal, they're demonstrating that they understand what teachers are looking for and what is considered high quality work and how they get there. And the other thing that the Danielson rubric wants us to do is it wants students to monitor their own understanding, and that journaling is students monitoring it. If they don't understand something, they can say that in their journal, and then they can remember to ask a question about it. Or if we're the teachers reading the journals, we can see that a student doesn't understand this and kind of go back. But it helps students monitor their own understanding, because if they can't answer a question on the journal, then they don't understand the project, or they don't understand, the material. So it can be extremely helpful, and doing the journaling will help me as a teacher hit those on the Danielson rubric when I'm being assessed. So I love that. And I'm definitely going to be putting journaling into my projects this year. So that's all I thought of for Unit 3, and I'm excited to hear all your thoughts.